Welcome to our channel. Before we dive into yet another fascinating mythy, we'd like to invite you to watch, to like, and subscribe to the channel. Also activate the notification sound. Let's discuss about the shocking truth about Zipporah and why. Did God try to kill Moses? Moses, great leader of Israel, man who stood before Pharaoh, one who parted the Red Sea. But what if I told you before any of that? Moses was about to be struck down by God himself, and the only reason he survived. His wife Zipporah, woman barely mentioned but in one mysterious moment saved Moses' life. Was she? And what really happened that night? Stay with me as we uncover the untold story of Zipporah, Moses' first wife, woman who stepped in when everything was on the line. And if you're new here, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Beckus today. We're diving deep. Zipporah name means bird in Hebrew, but was it just a name, or did it mean something more? Woman caught between two worlds. Zipporah was the daughter of Jethro, also known as ruler, priest of Midian, but who were the Midianites? Genesis 25:1-4 tells us Midian was a son of Abramthra, his wife. Keterathat means Zipporah was Abraham's descendantist, like Mos. But here's the question: were the Midianites true worshippers of the God of Israel, or had they been influenced by pagan customs? Jethro was called a priest of Midian, but what kind of priest? Was he a follower of the one true God, or was he involved in something else? The Bible hints that Jethro later acknowledges Yahweh, but at this point in the story, don't know for sure. Moses didn't know Israel. He knew Wash was alone fleeing for his life. Sands of the desert stretched before him, his feet were blistered, his throat dry hissed past. Genetha, prince of Egypt, no, a wanderer in the wilderness days, Pacidental finale, found water. Well, but this wasn't just any well. Wells were sacred in the Biblia, place of divine encounter. Sobram's servant found Rebekah at a well. Jacob met Rachel at a well, and no Moses had arrived at one completely unawares moment would change his life forever. Sat by the water. Group of them, Jethro's daughter say, came to draw water, but they weren't alone. Shepherds arrived pushing them a zedatrine to take over the well. Moses watched, took a deep breath, and he stood upa for in a relona, but not afraid. He drove the shepherds away, defending the women, a protector of an in exile. Jethro heard about this and invited Moses into his home for the first time since fleeing Egypt. Moses had a place of refuge. Jethro saw his strength, his character, and gave him his daughter Zipporah. What this meant for her was leaving her family, her customs, everything she had ever known, to marry a foreigner, Israeli man raised in Pharaoh's palace. Did she fully embrace his faith, or was there tension? The Bible doesn't support. One thing is clear: her role in Moses' life was far from over, and the most shocking moment was still to come. Zipporah was not just Moses' wife, was the mother of his sons Goshomi, a foreigner. They're a reminder of Moses' exilialism. God is my help. A name of protection. Their names tell a story of Fathof Struglof, a man torn between two worlds. Bet did they grow up in Midian, or join Israel in the Exodus? The Bible is silent on of the mysteries surrounding Zipporah. But what happened that night weighs no mystery. It was terrifying. Jet was the night God himself sought to kill Moses. What happened, and why did Zipporah's actions change everything? Stay with me, because this is where it all unfolds. Moses had received his calling. Burning bush command: go to Pharaoh, set my people free. Journey to Egypt had begun. Moses was on the road with Zipporah. Their sons of everything seemed to be falling into place until it happened at Exodus 4:24. At a lodging place on the way, the Lord met Moses and was about to kill him. Wait, what? God had just chosen Moses, called him to lead his people. Yonder Noah was going to kill him. Why? What had Moses done, or failed to do? To understand, we need to go back to the covenant. Genesis 17:10-14, God's command to Abraham: every male among you shall be circumcised. It will be a sign of the covenant, and any uncircumcised male be cut off from his people. Moses, leader of Israel, had neglected to circumcise his own son. This wasn't a minor issue, was a violation of the covenant. Thou could Moses represent God's people when he had failed the very sign of their relationship with God? Moses lay in danger vulnerable to a hand. Then Zipporah stepped inch, grabbed a sharp stone and circumcised their own and act of panic, desperation thinch, took the foreskin touched Moses's feet with it and spoke strange words that have puzzled scholars for centuria sexus, for 25 to 26, surely you are a bridegroom of blood to me. So the Lord let him alone. God relented. Moses' life was spared. But why did Zipporah say those words? And why did she have to act? To understand we need to ask two key questions. Was circumcision so important, and did Moses refuse to do it? Or was Zipporah against it? Some scholars say Moses delayed because Zipporah opposed it. Others believe Moses simply neglected it the way Zipporah acted, and it may have changed everything because later in Exodus 18:2 we learn something shocking. Zipporah and their son had been sent back to Midian. Did this event led to their separation? Did Zipporah return home because of this moment? One thing is clear, this was a turning point for Moses, for Zipporah, and for the destiny of Israel. But did she ever reunite with him? And what happened to her after? Stay with me because there's more to this story. Fane meets the Moses serve of Edbert. Something had changed. Zipporah saved his life, but at what cost? After that night, something shifted. Dan Suncha was Goni. Exodus 18:2 tells us Moses sent Zipporah and their sons back to Midian. Was it because of what happened that night? Was there tension between them? Did Moses blame her? Or did Zipporah refuse to continue the journey? The Bible doesn't sabot. One thing is clear, was no longer by his side. Moses moved forward. Egypto Pharaoh destiny. The great battle between God and Egypt began. Plague after plague bloodliestas, finally Pharaoh let them go. Exodus had begun. Moses led the people through the Red Sea, through the wilderness to Mount Sinai, and then Jethro arrived, and he didn't come alone, brought Zipporah hand there. Sons after all that Tema reunion. Exodus 18:5 Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, to Moses in the wilderness, bringing Zipporah and her sons back. Was this a happy reunion? Or was it something else? Because something was different. No, Moses wasn't just a husbander. A father was a leader, prophet, a man who spoke with God face to face. Had time changed them? Had their paths grown apart? We don't know this. After this moment, Zipporah disappears from the story ever mentioned again. Did she stay with Moses? Or return to Midian? Did she embrace his mission? Or did she feel like an outsider? Some believe she stayed in the background. Others believe she went home. But one thing is certain, she was part of his journey. Woman who saved his life. Wife who bore his sons, and yet a mystery. But her impact remains. What her would Moses have survived? Would the Exodus have even happened? Would history be the same? We may never know, but what we do know is that sometimes the ones who change history, the master, the ones we hear about, the Lestan Zipporah, she was one of them. Her story is brief but powerful, and without her everything could have been different. This is Zipporah's woman who stepped in when everything was on the line, and the untold story of how she saved Moses and the future of Israel's woman in the Shadosa, Wifia Mathora, rescuer. But what else? Why was she the one to act? Why not Moses? Moses had just encountered God at the burning bush, had stood on holy ground, spoken with the Almighty, yet on that night was powerless and it was Zipporah who saved him. Was this destiny, or something else? Some believe Zipporah was fulfilling an ancient Relethi protector of the chosen one who steps in when the leader falters. She was not the first woman to do this, and she would not be the last. Echoes in the Bible women often appear at critical moments, changing the course of historian ways no one expects. Let's compare. Look at Sarah, Abraham's wife, mother of Nash, was part of God's promise, but she doubted Lord at the idea of a child in her older age. Despite her struggles, God's plan moved through her. There's Rebekah, wife of Isaac's, made a choice, a bold, risky choice, helped Jacob deceive his father so he could receive the blessing. Was it deception or destiny? Either way, it changed everything. No. Look at Rahab, Canaanite, woman of the city, an outsider, yet she hid the Israelites' spies, protected the Mond because of her Gerachophelthan. There's Esther, a queen, but also a woman in the right place at The right team, a woman who risked everything to save her people. If I perish, I perish. And because of her nation was Sevedo, you see the pattern. Women stepping into his story when the moment demands it. No, back to Zipporah. She wasn't an Israelitesh, wasn't a queen, it wasn't even supposed to be part of this story yet. On that night was the only one who could act. Moses, the prophet of God, was powerless, but Zipporah wasn't. Took the nifted what Moses did noted in doing which became part of the covenant. Some say she resisted circumcision, that she was against ithotes. Why Moses Dalada say she knew what had to be done, stepped in at the last moment. The way she acted, like Sarah-like, Rebecca-like, Rahab-like, Asthera womanit, a turning point in his story. And after that moment she fades from the story. Was it because she had fulfilled her role? Was it because she no longer belonged in the mission? Or was it because history is written by men and women like Zipporah remain in the background? Whatever the answer on thing is clear, without her Moses would not have made it to Egypt. Exodus would not have begun, and history would not be the Samathus. Is Zipporah's Legusia, name barely mentioned, neither woman, barely seen it, a force that shaped the future bridegroom of blood, a moment of sacrificial mystery in the story of Moses. Boot the hidden figures that make all the difference in Zipporah. She was one of them. When we think of the great leaders of the Bible, often picture men must David Obramt. Look close. Earth women behind these men often played the key roles that we tend to overlook. Insider Rachel Jacob's beloved wife, her struggle with infertility, desperation for children, and yet, despite all the hardships, bore Joseph, one who would save Israel from famine. But the story didn't stop with Joseph. It continued with his brothers, with the Pharaoh's dreams, and with the actions of a woman. We never saw the full picture. In fact, many women in the Bible acted without understanding the consequence, but they did what they had to. Duthie stepped into the unknown, and God used them in that same way. Zipporah was thrust into an unimaginable role-own moment. She's just a daughter of Jethro. Next, she is standing between Moses and death, a woman who steps into the breach at a time when the leader of Israel was rendered vulnerabilitas. Is no small thing. This moment of Karagethis, act of decisive, and Zipporah was the one who upheld the covenant when Moses could not. What does that say about her? Was she simply a wife obeying her husband? Or was she someone who grasped something deeper than Moses did at that moment? Think about it. Moses had spent years in exile, was raised in Pharaoh's house, knew the rituals of Egypt, but perhaps he forgot the significance of the covenant with God. Maybe Zipporah, from a different cultural background, had a deeper, more intuitive understanding of what needed to be done. True recognition of the covenant. Perhaps her act was as much about saving Moses, it was about saving Israel. Wasn't just a matter of circumcision, it was about divine obedience, about the line of Israel being protected, and about the message God was sending through Moses. But here's where it gets more fascinating. Zipporah's role is not just about her as a wife, it's about her as a woman who defies expectation. About all the other women in the Bible who stepped up when they were needed. Most one no one else would like. Deborah, Georgia, prophetessa, warriora, woman who led Israel into battles, didn't wait for a man to act, didn't stand by, hoping someone else would take the lead, stepped into the role God had for her, and Israel was saved because of her. Karagathon. There's Rutha Fourniera, Widow, could have easily faded into obscurity, yet instead, she became the great-grandmother of King David, and part of the lineage of Jeshua. Faithfulness to Naomi, her loyalty to her people, her willingness to risk everything to a destiny greater than she could have ever imagined. What about Mary, the mother of Jesus, young girl betrothed, not yet married when the angel came to her? Could have said nosh, could have turned away, but instead, she accepted the calling, became the vessel for God's promise, became part of history in a way no one else could. Zipporah, in her own way, joins the ranks of these women. May not be mentioned often, but her intervention was essentials. Was the one who stopped Moses from dying before his mission even began. Without her, there would have been no exodus, no plague, no miracles in the desert, and no liberation of the Israelites. Actions show us that Semeta Mesets, not the loudest voices in the room, that make the biggest difference. The quiet acts of Karajeth, ones that come when no one else is watching. ones that seem small, but in hindsight, everything tends to overlook the women who serve in the shadows, praise the men on the front lines, but, in truth, these women are the backbenethi, are the ones who hold the promise of God's covenant. Together they may not have written the laws of the land, but they carried the weight of God's will when it mattered most. Zipporah did not have the fame of Sarah or Rebekah, did not lead armies like Deborah, did not have a book of the Bible written in her name. What she did was crucial in that moment when Moses could not act it. Was Zipporah, who saved the future of Israel, is one of the unsung heroes. Made it all possible. Her story is a reminder to us. Alphet, God uses those who are willing to act in faith even when the path is unclear, even when no one is watching, even when the task seems impossible. Her role may not be celebrated by his debut. It was vital. It was Zipporah who protected the covenant when Moses could not. It was Zipporah who stood in the gap, a woman whose name means bird, a woman who soared in faith, a woman whose actions would echo through the age. Sand changed the course of history in ways we will never fully understand. Her mystery remains, but her impact is clear. Without her there would be no Moses, no Exodus, no Israeland, no freedom, and that is her legacy. Final section builds on Zipporah's importance and aligns her with other powerful women in the Bible who played pivotal roles. It highlights the often overlooked strength and agency that women have in biblical narratives.